to the entertaining Talkin' Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video as the New York Giants press conference, Joe Judge's first press conference as a New York Giants head coach, has finally concluded. And I did this right after the interview was concluded, so I don't have any notes and quotes to show you guys, but I wrote down a ton of notes of what Joe Judge had to say. And all I could say after that press conference, if you don't at least see why the New York Giants brought this guy in for an interview and eventually, brought him in as the head coach, you're just not being honest with yourself. This guy did a fantastic job in his press conference, and he said everything you could possibly want him to say. Like I said, I wrote down all the notes, but things off the top of my head. The Cleo thing had me dying. When somebody asked him what, the prediction for next year, what the record will be, he said, "What do you think, I miss Cleo?" I don't know. I can't predict the future. All I can tell you is what I'm going to do. And what he continued to harp on throughout the entire press conference was structure, direction, discipline, things that a teacher would tell you about. Of course, he's getting a PhD, a doctorate degree in being a teacher. He talked about his days in the classroom in kindergarten, how he had to organize plans for kids, right? Guy was phenomenal. He told you that he was going to smack you in the mouth for 60 minutes straight. I love everything about this guy, and I am proud and happy that the New York Giants selected this guy. Yes, they could have went with Ron Rivera if he would have taken the job. There was a more qualified candidates out there, Mike McCarthy, but this guy could very well be a diamond in the rough. Now, I'm not going to tell you he's a slam dunk, right? But in terms of saying the right things, this guy knows how to command a room. He knows how to be a leader, and I completely understand what the New York Giants saw in this guy. He sounded like Bill Belichick many times throughout the interview. When asked about what the game plan is going to be, like specifics, they asked him, "Are you going to be a running team? Are you going to be a passing team?" He said, "I don't know. Tell me who the opponent's going to be. We're going to structure our game plan around the opponent's weaknesses, and we're going to be a team that is versatile enough that'll be able to exploit those weaknesses." He went on to say that he's going to get the most talent out of every single player, which is why he wanted to be a special teams coach in the first place. He said that his lifelong dream is to be a head coach, but he thought by being a special teams coach, learning all the different variables, both offensively and defensively, it would make him be a better coach. He also, he said everything right. But I go on for days about what this guy said, but I think he's going to be a fantastic head coach. I really do. I'm behind him, and I'm not going to judge him after 1 year. I'm going to give him time. They also asked him about his staff. He said he's going to take his time in evaluating the staff. He's going to give every guy a fair chance, and he's going to bring in guys that are good people and people that he feels can get the most out of players. He's going to find the strengths in players, he said, and get it out of them. That's what good coaches do, and he's going to bring on coaches that he feels will do that for him. And you got to love what he says. He also said that, yes, he has names in mind, but he has not come to a full decision on any player on the roster or on any coach on the roster. He said that everybody's going to have a chance to play. They're going to get the most out of every player, and the players that perform best in practice are going to be the ones that get a fair chance. They asked him about culture. One of the reporters, I don't remember who it was, asked him about culture. He said, there's going to be one culture here, winning culture. That's what it's going to be about. He said all your problems off the field, when you come into the camp, when you come to practice, when you come to the game, they don't come into the facility. You're about the team first. He said that they're also going to look at these people, they're going to look at them as people. They're going to understand that people are having problems on and off the field, and they're going to work with them. But they want to make sure that everybody buys in, and they're about one thing, winning football games. He also said that the team is going to resemble those people of the city. New York, New Jersey, blue collar. He wants a blue collar team, a team that puts their work hat on every single day and is ready to go on the football field. What more could you have want this guy to say? He said everything right. He sounded like Bill Belichick. He said that he's going to take his experience from Nick Saban, from Bill Belichick, from his father. He had a great quote about his father. I can't remember it off the top of my head at the beginning of the press conference. And I'm going to start with what Mara said. I took a couple of notes of what Mara said, and excuse me if it's a little choppy, but I'm just reading my notes, and I'm going to, do the best I can with what I gathered from the press conference. Mara made note that it was the most talented group of coaches that they have ever interviewed. Now, Mara's been in charge of the Giants solely, I think, since 2005. Of course, he has a partner, but he took over, main ownership around that area. It's been about 15 years. And he said it was the most talented cast of people that they brought in for a head coaching job since he's been in charge. He also went on to say that Joe Judge was the most impressive interview he has ever conducted since he's been the owner of the New York Giants. He was blown away, and it makes sense. The only way this guy was ever going to get a job is if he blew them away. He also went on to say that they had their eye on Joe Judge for years. This didn't just happen. They knew about this guy for years, and they were scoping him out. So he was on the New York Giants' radar, and I'm sure that the former New York Giant, Bill Belichick, had a lot to do with that. He made point that he's won 3 Super Bowls, he's won 2 national championships with Nick Saban. He also talked about, all that, coaching under arguably the best college and pro coach, and gaining experience from that. And obviously Joe Judge piggybacked off of that and spoke more on it. He said that some of the qualities they saw in him were poise, leadership, commands respect, presence. And I'm so pumped up about this interview. I'm so pumped up about this coach that I cannot wait to go live and talk to. I'm going to do a call-in show around 4:30, 4:45, 5 o'clock. I'll be live for a couple hours before I go live with Bad Dog Sports tonight, recapping all the day's events. But I can't wait to do it and talk with you guys. And now I'm going to jump into some of the quotes that he had to say. He said, "I do not take this position lightly. I'm in the building. I'm about foundation." He was given the foundation from Bill Belichick. He credited him with that. He said the most important lesson that he learned was that you hold those you expect. You expect more from those that are closest to you. And he said he learned that lesson from his father. Paraphrasing a bit on the quote. I didn't write it down properly. He said he's very demanding. And he appreciates the players from the Patriots that put up with his demands and got him to the position that he's in. But he said this is just the beginning. He also said that he does not take this situation lightly. He said everything that he's going to expect of his players, he expects from himself. He holds himself to a very high standard. When asked about what he's about, he said, "I'm old school. I have a physical mentality. Going to put in a product on the field that will be as well." He said, "We're going to punch you in the nose for 60 minutes. What Giant fan doesn't want to hear that? What football fan doesn't want to hear that? I'm going to tell you what. I bet you there were some fans of other teams that wish they had this guy for their head coach after they watched this press conference. I'm excited. I don't know about you guys. I'm excited. He said they're going to have a relentless competitive attitude when talking about players on his team. We'll play fundamentally sound. We will not beat ourselves, which is one of the things that I really liked about Ron Rivera. That's what he was great at. You go back, look at the Carolina Panthers. Year in, year out, they were near the bottom of the league in penalties. And that is why they were as successful as they were for a 5-year stretch. And that's what he wants to bring here. They're not going to beat themselves. They're going to be fundamentally sound. Sounds a lot like Bill Belichick. Sounds a lot like the Patriots. The Patriots, we always say, don't have the most talented players, but they get the most out of them because they practice, and they have the right guys there. And Joe Judge was one of those guys. He will take care of the players in the locker room, he said. He said he's going to understand that they're human beings. They're not robots. He'll put them in the right situation to be successful, which is where he went on to say about the coaches, putting them in the right situations to be successful. We'll demand them to give everything they have every single day. What more could you want, guys? And then, obviously went on to the blue-collar team about the city, which I already talked about. We'll study the players, evaluate. When asked about the personnel on the team, he said we're going to study them, we're going to evaluate them, and we're going to get the most out of each individual player. He does not have a staff in place, but he plans to have one shortly. I made note of that earlier as well. Okay, this is one thing I really liked. I made note of this because past college coaches, you look at a Chip Kelly, you look at a lot of these guys, they're about systems, right? This magical system. You look at Cliff Kingsbury, air raid offense. He is about football. He's about old school football. You win in the trenches. You win with tough development. When asked about his strategy, he said, day in, day out to be successful. Can't get by with this magic scheme or this gimmick. The same things win football games that have always won football games. It will start in the classroom, being on the field at the proper time. They start with being in the proper attire. Who does that sound like? Who does that sound like? Kind of sounds like a pretty successful coach with the New York Giants, Tom Coughlin. Remember Coughlin? If you weren't dressed properly, you got fined. That's what he sounded like in that quote. And I loved hearing it. Loved hearing it. Ball security. He talked about that. Obviously, that's a big problem with Daniel Jones. He said he's going to stress that. Fundamentals. Ball security. Running. Tackling. It's a tough game. We will be tough, he was quoted as saying. No shortcuts. Kept saying that over and over and over again. I mean, there's not much more to say, man. He kept talking about that he's going to study. He's going to get the most out of his players. And he's going to work his ass off. Love him. Love this hire. I think it was the right hire. I think it was the right hire at the right time, and I think he hit a home run in his first press conference. I'm just trying to look through this to see if there's any other notable quotes. He talked about Gettleman. When asked about Gettleman, he said that him and Gettleman are on the right page. He completely respects everything about Gettleman. He thinks he's a great evaluator of talent. He also went on to say that he thinks he's at an advantage because he doesn't look at these players as quarterbacks or running backs or wide receivers. He looks at them if they could turn their hips properly, if they're their burst, their speed. He looks at them as players, not positions, basically. He also said that he's evaluated everybody in college from round 1 to 7, and he thinks he'll bring that expertise to the New York Giants draft. So that sounds to me like him and Gettleman will be working together collaboratively, both in the draft and in free agency. And he said it's going to start in April. So like I said, have patience with this guy. He's going to get this team on the right track. I believe that. I don't know if it's going to be year 1. It might take 2, 3 years, but this team is going to get headed in the right direction, and I think we finally have the right guy for the job. I really believe that in my heart. And maybe I'm wrong, and if I am, I am. But I do like this hire. I think he's the right guy. I think he said all the right things. And there's many other things I said about this, but there's only so much I can recap. But the press conference overall was an A+. I'm looking forward to talking about it with you guys very shortly as I take some calls and we talk New York Giants, but I love this hire. I think it's what the New York Giants needed. He sounds like a disciplinarian, but at the same time, he sounds understanding. He sounds like he wants to bring the right guys in here. Good people. Guys that are going to get the most out of the players. And it all to me sounds like the New England Patriots. Getting the most out of your players. Wes Welker, Danny Woodard. These guys are not the most talented players, but they found what they're good at and they use those tools. And that is what I think his plan is here with the New York Giants. He's going to get the most out of every player on this roster. And if they don't fit the team, he's going to find somebody who does. And that's all I got to say. And we'll see if they bring in some free agents from the New England Patriots that he may feel fit this system to a T. But I love day one of Joe Judge, and I'm looking forward to hopefully another 15 years of him. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.